Every year, hundreds of thousands of seniors experience strokes, many without warning, many without ever seeing it coming. The first signs are often hiding in plain sight. Now, when we think about strokes, we imagine something dramatic. A collapse, a slurred sentence, a frozen face. But the real warning signs? They often come quietly, and they show up when we least expect them. Brushing our teeth, tying our shoes, pouring that first cup of coffee. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 common morning habits that silently raise stroke risk in seniors. Some of these might surprise you, and I'll tell you right now, the final habit is the most dangerous and the most overlooked. If you're over 60, or if you love someone who is, I urge you to stay until the end. Because this isn't just about prevention, it's about protection. And every single change we talk about today could make the difference between a normal morning and a life-changing event. The first warning sign. Before we get into the habits, let me tell you about the very first sign I tell my patients to watch for. It's not pain. It's not dizziness. It's something far more subtle and far more dangerous because of it. The first real sign of a stroke for many seniors is a sudden shift in coordination. You reach for your toothbrush and your hand doesn't land where it should. You go to sip your tea and it dribbles slightly. You try to button a shirt and your fingers just feel off. Not paralyzed, not numb, just wrong. These are dramatic symptoms. That's why they get ignored. But they are neurological. Your brain is responsible for every smooth movement. So when something feels clumsy, lagging, or uncoordinated, that's not aging. That's a potential blood flow interruption. Let me share a story. I had a patient once, 74 years old, retired accountant, very sharp. He came in not because he was sick, but because he said, "I've been dropping my keys more often. My wife noticed I've been fumbling with buttons." I asked more questions. He'd also had a moment a few days prior where he tried to write a grocery list and forgot how to spell milk. Just blanked. No headache, no slurring, but something was wrong. We ran a scan and found he had experienced a small TIA, a mini stroke, earlier that week. The next 48 hours were critical. We adjusted his medication, cleaned up his diet, monitored his pressure and hydration. He never had a full stroke because we caught the warning. And here's the key. A study published in the Lancet Neurology followed patients after TIAs and found that the first 48 hours were the highest risk window. If a patient received treatment during that time, the risk of a major stroke dropped by more than 80%. That's how fast you have to act. And that's how fast you can change the outcome. Now let me tell you something else that might surprise you. The most dangerous time for stroke isn't in the middle of a stressful day. It's actually first thing in the morning. Why? Because your brain wakes up before you do. And for most people over 60, that first hour after opening your eyes is when your body is most vulnerable. Here's what happens. Overnight, your body becomes dehydrated. You haven't had water in 6 to 8 hours, so your blood thickens slightly. Your cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes sharply at dawn. And for many seniors, blood pressure follows. That creates a perfect storm. Thick blood, tight vessels, and a surge in pressure through aging arteries. Add to that the way most people start their day. Fast, distracted, with the wrong habits. And you've created an environment where stroke risk quietly triples. So let's get into those habits. Habit number 1, skipping water. The first habit is the most overlooked of all. Skipping water. Most seniors wake up and head straight for coffee. Maybe they brush their teeth, check their phone, pour a cup, and start the day. But they don't drink any water. And that's a mistake, one of the biggest. Because after 8 hours of sleep, your blood is like a sponge with no water in it. That increases the viscosity, the thickness of your blood. And thick blood moves slower, clots easier, and stresses the heart and brain. One study from the European Journal of Neurology found that low morning hydration was a contributing factor in 48% of first-time ischemic strokes. Nearly half. Not genetics, not diet, just dehydration. So here's what I tell my patients. Before anything else, drink water. Room temperature or warm, not ice cold. 1 full glass, before the coffee, before the pills, before the news. You're rehydrating your brain, not just your mouth. This one simple step can literally change the trajectory of your entire day. Habit number 2, sitting too long in bed. The second habit is something almost nobody talks about, but I see it all the time. Staying in bed too long without moving. I'm talking about sitting in bed, scrolling your phone, or just staying still for 20, 30 minutes without any circulation. After 60, your blood vessels are less elastic. If you go from hours of lying down to just sitting motionless, especially without movement, blood pools in the lower body. That slows return to the heart. It reduces brain perfusion. And for someone with plaque or clot risk, it can be the trigger. You might think lounging in bed is restful, but vascularly speaking, it's a bottleneck. The heart has to work harder to recirculate blood that's been pooling. And if blood pressure surges, or if a clot has formed in a leg, those first movements can send it upward. I've seen strokes happen in the bathroom because people went from lying to straining without a proper transition. So here's the safer alternative. Wake up slowly, but move early. Do ankle rolls while still lying down. Flex your toes. Then when you sit up, do shoulder circles, neck rolls. Stand up gently. This gets blood moving upward again, safely, gradually. Even 2 minutes of gentle movement can prime the body for a much safer morning. Habit number 3, skipping breakfast. The third habit that raises stroke risk after 60 is skipping breakfast. And I don't mean a big breakfast. I mean any breakfast. Too many older adults wake up, drink coffee, take medications, and eat nothing. They say they're not hungry, or they're trying intermittent fasting. But after 60, that can be risky, especially for the brain. Now, fasting has benefits in younger bodies with stable blood sugar and strong hormonal rhythms. But after 60, the body becomes more vulnerable to hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. And when that happens, the brain suffers first. The brain runs on glucose. It doesn't store much. So if you're already dehydrated and then you don't eat, you're creating the perfect storm for dizziness, mental fog, or worse, a vascular event, especially if you're on blood pressure or diabetes medication. This is critical because many stroke cases I've seen in patients over 65 involved skipped meals plus medication plus stress. Instead, I recommend a small, protein-rich breakfast. It doesn't need to be big. Half a boiled egg, a spoon of yogurt, a few soaked walnuts. Just enough to stabilize blood sugar and tell your brain you're supported. It's not about appetite. It's about circulation, stability, and rhythm. Habit number 4, rushing into stress. Habit number 4 is one most people don't even recognize, rushing into stress. What does that mean? It means checking the news before your feet hit the floor, reading emails at the breakfast table, arguing with your spouse about the day's schedule before you've even had water. This is a problem because the brain after sleep is in a fragile state. It hasn't fully switched into cognitive gear yet. Your cortisol is already peaking. Your blood pressure is naturally rising. If you add mental strain to that moment, you amplify the physiological stress. A 2015 study published in the journal Stroke followed over 93,000 people for more than a decade. It found that individuals who experienced high psychological stress early in the day were significantly more likely to suffer a stroke, even when controlling for other risk factors like age, smoking, and blood pressure. And here's what's worse. The risk was highest in those over 60 and highest of all within the first 3 hours of waking. So, when you wake up and reach for your phone or dive into the day without creating space, you're stacking pressure on top of pressure in a body already on edge. Instead, create a buffer, 10 quiet minutes, stretching, a walk, Even just sitting with your tea and being still. Give your brain a chance to stabilize before you load it with tasks. This is not luxury, it's neurological hygiene. Habit number 5, physical stillness, the most dangerous. And now we've come to it, the one I've been building toward. The 5th morning habit that quietly increases stroke risk and still flies under the radar for so many seniors. It's one word, but it's the foundation under all the others: stillness. And not the peaceful kind. I'm talking about physical inactivity. Waking up and then spending the next hour or two sitting, on the bed, at the table, on the couch. No real movement, no circulation, just stillness. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds normal. You wake up, pour a cup of coffee, maybe read the paper. It feels healthy, like you're easing into the day. But here's the truth. That stillness could actually be dangerous, especially after 60, because your blood is already more prone to clotting. Your veins don't push blood upward as easily, and without movement, the vascular system slows. The legs become pooling zones, and that's where most clots begin. We've seen this for years in hospital settings. Post-surgical patients who stay sedentary are at sharply increased risk for deep vein thrombosis. But what many people don't realize is that the same risk applies to everyday seniors. You may not be in a hospital bed, but if you're seated for long stretches right after waking, your body can't tell the difference. A study published in Circulation tracked over 8,000 adults over 60. Those who spent more than 9 hours a day sedentary had double the stroke risk, even if they exercised later in the day. Why? Because it's not just about how much you move, it's when you move. The first hour after waking, that's the window. If you move early, you activate circulation. You tell your body the day has begun. But if you stay still, the body assumes it's still resting. And that stagnation, even if it feels harmless, becomes one of the strongest predictors of stroke later in life. So what's the fix? Nothing extreme. No treadmill, no sweating, just 5 to 10 minutes of light mobility. March in place, do shoulder rolls, stretch your arms overhead, walk to the mailbox. Tell your blood it's time to flow. Because when blood flows, the brain thrives. And when the brain thrives, the whole body follows. Conclusion. So let's bring this all together. We started this video talking about strokes, something most people think of as sudden. But what I've shown you today is that the warning signs and the risk factors build quietly. And they start in the smallest, most ordinary parts of our day. How we move, what we skip, how we start our mornings. Health after 60 is not about dramatic change. It's about consistent awareness. The brain is not asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to pay attention. You don't need a new supplement. You don't need a new gadget. You just need to stop ignoring what your body's been trying to tell you all along. So here's my final message to you. Take these 5 habits seriously. Drink water first thing. Move gently before you sit. Eat something small. Create space before stress. And above all, don't stay still. Because every one of these changes, no matter how small, could be the difference between a long, healthy life and a preventable tragedy. If this video helped you, please give it a like and subscribe to Dr. Min-Jun Explains Senior Health. Share it with someone you love who's over 60. And as always, take care of yourself, because your brain is counting on you. I'm Dr. Min-Jun Carter. Stay healthy, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next video.